One. What's up, everybody? Ryan Thomas here, live on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast YouTube channel. Very excited to bring you another edition of the Thomas Take, and safe to say, we got another guest. She's very excited. She doesn't know it yet, but she's actually making history on the show. Stephanie Wilson is the first female to join me on the show. How about that, Stephanie?
Wow, that's a huge honor.
Right, yeah.
I'm a trailblazer.
Well, Stephanie, it's awesome having you on. I started following you on Twitter probably about a couple weeks ago, and just tell the viewers and listeners about yourself a little bit to get us started.
So I started writing for sports and specifically for NFL since around 2015 or so. I was discovered via Twitter at the time, and I wrote for a publication called Buffalo Wins.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for a couple years, and then we were just talking about it, but I did a podcast. So this is actually my second podcast. I did my first podcast with this blog called The Grueling Truth.
Right.
And this was back in 2016 when when the Bills played the 49ers. I happened to be going to the game, and I had tweeted that out, and someone had reached out to me. His name is Matt, and he had asked me to go on his show. He liked what he saw out of my tweets. So, and he knew I was a writer. So I went on his show, and his show was with Dexter Carter, and it was kind of cool because Dexter actually played in the 90s.
Yeah, I've heard that name.
For the Niners. I believe he was a running back. And I thought that was kind of cool because the guy has a Super Bowl ring. And it was also very intimidating, to say the least. Oh my gosh.
Right.
I was so nervous. And I did all my research, and so yeah, that was like my first taste of a podcast, and especially in the sports capacity. And then last year, the host of the show, Matt, he had reached out to me looking to revive our Bills content. We're looking for a beat writer, so I, graciously accepted it, and I became the Bills beat writer for The Grueling Truth, and I am still to this day. I'm actually working on a couple things right now, so I know it's still the off season and it's kind of quiet, but still, there's still a lot of material.
There's no such thing. There's no such thing as an off season ever.
No, there isn't. Like, you can pick apart anything going on, even if the draft is over. There's always something. There's always some nugget.
Right.
So yeah, I'm working on something now, but definitely people can give me a follow, and I can go into all my contact info, towards the end of the show. People need it.
Right.
So that's essentially what I do. I'm, a Bills beat reporter, writer for The Grueling Truth, and I love it, and it's fantastic, and it's nice to provide a female voice.
Right, and
as a female NFL fan.
There's times where, and along the way, I've been doing this since I was probably, not the podcast, but sports writing since I was probably about 18. And I've met a lot of people along the way, of all different backgrounds. And I can honestly tell you, I enjoy your Twitter. It's very entertaining. There's been days where I might be like working on something, and I'll hop on and I'll see one of your tweets, and I'm like, this is actually pretty funny. Like, it's something that I wouldn't expect a woman to poke fun at. Like, most girls don't poke fun at that stuff.
Yeah, I went to college for English, so I have a background in writing and all that. And I just, love satire and humor and working that into sports because it's so fun and ridiculous. And there's, you know, all sorts of things you can do with it. So I'm very well invested, and it kind of keeps people's attention. And I have a very specific writing style too.
Yeah. As far as your writing background, as far as your writing background, did you go to school for writing, or was it just something that you started doing?
Yeah, I went to school at a small liberal arts school in Boston. And I graduated back in 2012, so that was forever ago. To some. And I studied English writing and literature, and you know, I have a regular 9-to-5 job, but this is more of like a glorified hobby, a side gig, which I love and which I'm, you know, passionate about, and I love talking sports. So, you know, it allows me to do podcasts, and it's opened up so many opportunities for me. And I think social media has helped in the sense that it's, you know, brought these opportunities to display my work.
Yeah, and more so, I'd say, and I'm saying it just from, you know, seeing your Twitter and stuff. More so, your personality is seen, which is a good thing. People kind of already know who you are without even meeting you yet. So yeah, like when I thought of having you on the show, I was like, well, I didn't really feel, you know, like sometimes I've asked people on the show and I'm like, oh, I don't really know how they're going to act, or they're a little bit reserved, or they're a little bit serious. And there's something to be said for like just being a loose personality.
So my brother likes, I can't believe I'm talking about my brother. He's gonna laugh about this. But my brother likes to joke that you know who Katie Nolan is?
Yes, I do.
I'm kind of like Katie Nolan. You know,
you're right.
Light
I can see that.
Of her,
Michelle Beadle-esque.
Michelle
Beadle,
like but I mean, I'm gonna come into my own, and I'm still evolving, and I have this persona, and I'm still trying to figure that all out.
Right.
But I'm building a following, I guess. I don't know.
Which you definitely, I mean, you definitely are, and you're being your own person. Which there's something to be said for that. Like, there's a lot of people in this business, or whatever you want to call it, in this world, where they just feel like they have to be something that they're not, or they try to be the next Al Michaels, or the next Susie Colbert, or the next whoever it may be. But just being yourself is really big.
Or they try to be like Stephen A. Smith or Skip Bayless, like totally off the reservation with their hot takes.
Which is why they're not on the same show anymore, probably.
I know.
But I'm happy to have you on.
Thank you.
As far as, you know, the subject matter, obviously you're a massive Buffalo Bills fan, as am I, and everybody knows that when they tune into this podcast that they're gonna, you know, hear a lot of stuff, you know, a lot of Bills news. You're from Boston, and I know Bills Mafia is spread out everywhere, but how did you become a Bills fan?
So I have my father to thank for that. My dad actually grew up in North Tonawanda in the 60s.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And so it was during the 60s. So if you know anything about, you know, AFL, that was when the franchise was born. So he was literally living in Buffalo at the time. Like, he would go to War Memorial, like, games, and
that's really cool.
They had season tickets, or they would like constantly be going to games. He's been to AFL championships. Like, he goes way back. He likes to call himself an AFL original charter member. Like, he's part of this exclusive club.
There is a group out there that I'm actually a part of, that I'm like the youngest member in the group on Facebook, and it's the AFL Bills backers, or something like that. It's pretty sweet. Maybe he can join it.
Yeah, there's actually a Facebook group called Remember the AFL, which is actually really phenomenal.
I'm in that one as well.
It's so good. And I think it's run by Ainge Conigliaro.
Right. Yeah.
If I'm pronouncing his name right.
Right.
He's the one that kind of spearheads and posts and organizes all that. So yeah, it's really interesting. And of course, I've seen that AFL documentary that was aired. So I have a taste of that.
That era, you could say.
Yeah.
So you're obviously you live in Boston.
Yes.
And we'll definitely get to the Red Sox a little bit later, but let's talk Bills first, because I know that you're dying to talk about the Bills from all the tweets that you posted and stuff like that. So okay, so draft night, you're sitting wherever you're sitting, maybe you're out with your friends, maybe you're out at a bar, or maybe you're watching it at home. What were your thoughts when you saw the Buffalo Bills were trying to trade up from 12, and they ultimately traded up from 12 to 7, and they took Josh Allen with Josh Rosen, pardon me, still on the board? Were you shocked by that?
Okay, so I'm admitting on the record that I was one of those Bills Mafia people who wanted them to pick Josh Rosen. At the time. So, I mean, I understand. I was actually monitoring Twitter, which is both a good thing and a bad thing, because Twitter Bill's Twitter especially can get really negative fast. And, like, people will just, like, feed off of each other. And, it's just social media, and we're all guilty of it. But I understand it wasn't, like, the sexy pick, like everybody wanted Josh Rosen. But I mean, we were still able to finagle and get Tremaine Edmonds.
Right.
But it's clearly what McDermott and Brandon Beane wanted, who at the end, and they're looking for a franchise quarterback, and that's what we're hoping to have.
Right.
So obviously, people are starting to kind of quote unquote, trust the process now. I read somewhere that actually a lot of people have been buying Josh Allen's jersey.
I'm one of them.
Jersey?
I'm one of them.
Oh my God, are you?
Yes, I am.
I said that. I told people, if we drafted Josh Rosen, I would, but we didn't.
I saw that too. I remember. I actually saw that. I remember seeing that, and I was like, "Hey, I'm one of those people. I bought his jersey already."
Honestly, now that I'm looking at the whole Josh Rosen without rose-colored glasses, I'm starting to realize that he might not be the quarterback I initially wanted.
What reasons are
he's just coming off very arrogant and cocky. At first, I liked it. Like, I liked him, saying, I think he was on the record for saying something about getting more rings than Brady, which I liked. Because, I have to deal with Patriots fans.
Well, that's like a competitive chip on a shoulder rather than saying, well, I'm going to get more rings than Tom Brady. That's like, oh, well, as a competitor, like, you want to see that guy compete to the highest of his ability. And then, draft night, I don't think he did himself any favors.
No, he didn't. And I just think he's just coming off as cocky. And, I mean, who knows? Maybe he'll be a boom. Maybe he'll be a bust. There's only so much we can predict at the end of the day.
Well, when I went live after the draft, a couple days after, and the draft was officially over, I really started to think about each and every quarterback in this class, and I thought to myself, they actually, for all intents and purposes, got drafted by the right teams. Like, although I don't think Baker Mayfield should have been picked first overall, Cleveland would be the only team that would make that pick, so they made it. The New York Jets took Sam Darnold, who will fit that team and that city and everything. We take Josh Allen, who fits here, and Josh Rosen goes to a team with a media market that's not really as dialed in even as Buffalo. So I think for him it'll work out. But so What caused you to somewhat come around to the idea of Josh Allen?
I mean, I just want to. I guess I'm going to be trusting the process here and putting. I'm trying to take a step back and take the wait and see approach and not, jump to conclusions, because I don't like to do that. Mm-hmm. I like to, he's a young kid. I don't want to, I welcomed him. I tweeted at him, and I'm trying to remain as positive as possible about the whole situation. And I've seen a little bit of his clips, and I've read about him a little bit. That he has, strong arm strength, that sort of thing.
Right.
But obviously, there's some concerns with accuracy. And one other thing that I thought was funny, though, I noticed was that he chose the number 17.
Right.
Which is kind of funny because that's every year of the drought, basically. So it's like
I didn't even think of that.
No,
I didn't even think of that.
I
just thought it's obviously his college number.
Yes, somebody had tweeted that out, and I was like, oh, that could be symbolic of every year we've suffered.
Wow, that's actually pretty. That actually gave me goosebumps there.
Maybe that's like a sign, or hopefully not an omen, but a sign of the fact that that he's our guy. Because we've been looking for this guy for forever.
Right. I wouldn't say it. I'm one of those guys that I speak from the heart. I wear my opinion on my sleeve, and I wouldn't say that I'm very confident in him if I didn't mean it. And I'm excited, to be honest. I had my buddy, one of my best friends, over during the draft. We're watching it. And they picked Josh Allen, and he wanted, my buddy Eric wanted Josh Rosen. He fell to the ground, where I actually did like a Tiger Woods PGA Tour fist bump. I was like, yes, let's go. Because that was the guy that I thought made the most sense for the city of Buffalo. And that's really, I think that's why they picked him. He just fits the DNA of the city, I think.
And then there was that whole, if you remember at that time, there was that whole hot button topic about the tweeting from the past when he was in high school, I believe.
Right. 15,
Yeah, so that was going on as well, and some people, were upset with that.
I mean, I only care about, I shouldn't say I don't care about, character, right? I try to pride myself on being a high character individual, and I think these guys should too, because they're role models, and we want them to be, buttoned up and say the right things and act the right way. But at that point, being that he was 15 and he's, 21, 22 now, it really didn't matter much to me. I mean, were the tweets kind of disturbing in some ways? Yes, but I'm sure he regrets it, and I'm sure he's going to try to do as best as he can to move on from his teammates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But as far as your ability to, do you ever go to games, being that you live in Boston, or?
Oh, that's a really good question. I try to go to at least one a year.
Okay.
One a season. But I go to a Bills backers bar.
Oh, nice.
To watch the games, or if it's televised, I go over to my brothers or my parents who live up north.
Right.
In Maine. But yeah, so obviously it's unfortunate because I can't go to a lot of games, and people ask me, "Oh, are you going to the game?" I'm like, "No, I'm not.
Right.
I live in Boston." So, my family makes, we're very ingratiated into, going to see a game each year. So we try to make the trip at least once a year. So
to be honest, I haven't gone to a game in 2 years,
Really?
Yeah, and I feel I actually feel bad about it to the point where I've already got tickets for the home opener, and I got tickets for I'm trying to get tickets for the Monday Night Football game against New England, but we'll see how that goes. But I'm excited. I mean, I really, as you said, the 3 words, trust the process. What are your thoughts on just McDermott and Brandon Beane since they've become a part of the Buffalo Bills organization?
I mean, the thing with McDermott is he's still so young. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we've only known him for 1 season, but I mean, compared to some of the previous head coaches, he's doing well. I mean, he led a team to end the drought. So, that's obviously a positive right there, is the fact that we ended this very long, the longest in North American sports drought.
Right.
So I like the slogan, trust the process. Some people on Twitter call it like a cult when it comes to trusting the process, like drinking the Kool-Aid, but I am drinking the Kool-Aid because I'm just so excited.
And the Labatt Blue.
You have to, and I try to explain this to non-Bills fans, my Patriots fans that are fans, and anybody else, how terrible this drought was for us Bills fans, because it was just brutal, and there were some years that were just blah, and then other years there were highs and lows, and peaks and valleys, and I will never forget where I was. It's gonna be one of those things where you never forget where you were during a time. I never will forget where I was and my reaction to when Andy Dalton threw the pass to Boyd. I literally thought I was dreaming because I was just so down. I was fearing the worst that entire game, because I was just on the edge of my seat, and I literally started shaking and tearing up and crying.
Yeah, I cried like a 5-year-old girl.
So bad. You gotta watch. People need to watch the reaction videos. They're the best.
Right. Yeah.
Grown men crying.
Well, what I did actually, I went to my dad's friend's bar that he owns in Tonawanda, actually.
Yeah.
And it's so weird because when I was watching, when it cut to the Ravens and Bengals game, and Andy Dalton threw that pass, I've said this to so many people and they agreed with me. The ball looked like it was just floating in slow motion on that 4th down. And then on the corner of the screen is the left side of the screen. Boyd is right there. He catches it. One guy misses a tackle. He stiff arms the other guy. And before, it was just he was it was like he glided into the end zone. I don't even remember seeing his feet move. I was just watching the ball in midair, just slow motion. And then as soon as he got in the end zone, I think I hugged every person out in the bar, people that I didn't even know, the homeless guy outside on the sidewalk. I probably hugged too. I mean, it was just literally fandemonium, as Van Miller would say.
I was literally shaking, and then I actually filmed a video, which I was going to post tomorrow on my Throwback Thursday, of me watching the graphic come out.
Right.
Because I haven't seen that graphic as how old am I? 27? I haven't seen it since I was
right.
A 9-year-old. So, and then, we could talk about Music City Miracle and how that was traumatizing.
I still remember that too, and I was 7 or maybe 8 at the time.
And I wasn't, I felt bad. I wasn't a big fan at that time, because they say you don't really become a fan as a kid until you're 11 or 10 or 11.
Right. Yep.
So I was just, being supportive for my brother and my dad, and I felt really bad, but I started crying because it was just so emotional.
It was almost, like an out-of-body experience.
Yeah. It was surreal. But then, flash forward to today, or this year, I was having literally an out-of-body experience. I have no words to describe the feelings that it was like a feeling of relief.
Right. It felt like
like the monkey is off our back. Like, people can stop talking about it. People can stop making fun of it. Like,
and another thing
too, it's a clean slate.
Another thing too about the drought that I always hated, and it had nothing to do with the actual season or any of the end results of the season, but literally on draft day, they'd show that graphic at the bottom when the Bills were on the clock, haven't made the playoffs since 1999. And this year I recorded the draft, and I just,
oh my God,
when the Bills were set to pick, I just paused it and saw like another graphic about how they made the playoffs for the first time since 1999. I took a picture of it, and I was like, God is good.
I know. I mean,
it's just crazy.
Yeah, that's why I recorded the whole experience of the graphic change, and then I also recorded when we were okay, so we made the wild card and we lost, but I made sure to document as much as possible because
right.
I knew, like, I even bought a T-shirt
that
said like playoffs or something about playoffs like it's 1999 or something.
Party like it's 1999. I got that too. Yeah, I got that one, and I got one. I got another one. It's blue. It says 716, and it says 1999 to 2017. I was like, oh, thank you, Lord. It's finally over. But they made the playoffs. They made the playoffs, and they lost to Jacksonville. There's been a lot of changes, frankly, especially to their offense at the game's most high-profile position, which is the quarterback position, with Josh Allen. And last year they drafted Nate Peterman, and then this year in free agency they signed A.J. McCarron. One of the questions that I wanted to ask you on the show, and I've been asking people this in polls and stuff like that, who do you think, if you were to look into your crystal ball, who do you think will start the most games at the quarterback position for the Bills in 2018?
Okay, so I think it will be Josh Allen.
Okay.
First, AJ second, and then Peterman third. You
think Josh Allen will get the QB1 spot?
Yeah, I think I think Bean and McDermott are fully invested in. But I mean, I hate to say this, but like I also kind of want to see more out of the training camp and the preseason.
Right. Because that's when you really find out. I haven't
seen him sling a football as, wearing a Bills uniform, nor have I AJ McCarron. I mean, I haven't really.
Or Peterman, really. I mean, Peterman's played very limited. Yeah, they've all three of them.
That's what makes this so unique. We don't have. There's a bit of there's controversy, and it's going to get competitive, and so I mean, I hate to say it, like, that's what I'm feeling. In looking into my crystal ball, ultimately, I think Josh Allen, since I think
I hope you're right. I honestly I want to see him play. I'm probably one of the few people that is like, well, if you take a rookie quarterback in the first round, you play him. I think he does. I think he does have some learning to do, but you can only learn from reading a clip, holding a clipboard for so long. So,
I mean, in this day and age, the football league, National Football League, has evolved, and so that's what we do now. We put the rookie in,
yeah.
See what goes from there, and it's trial and error, and sometimes they stink, sometimes they swim. So I mean, it's that sort of thing. That's just the days of the NFL, the state of the NFL.
It's either prove it or the National Football League, people say it stands not for long. You know, those are the three letters that people say.
Yeah.
I always call it I've called it on occasion the National Feelings League, because everybody talks about, well, this guy did this and this guy, they should be given a second chance, and not even talking about Colin Kaepernick, more so Johnny Manziel, like, oh, he should be given a second chance. It's like, come on, guys. Like, if I willingly messed up at my job, I couldn't reapply for the same job. You know what I mean? Like, it just kind of like, I don't know. It just doesn't really. I was a Johnny football guy. I liked Johnny Manziel, but you can only, shoot yourself in the foot so many times before everybody's just like, hey, man, like, too little, too late, But
yeah, he has a lot of demons to deal with,
and he has a lot of redeeming himself to do. It's like, I don't think he's done enough yet.
He's honestly, I like to call him a walking 30 for 30, like, embodiment. Like,
right. And
I'm looking forward to his 30 for 30.
I watched
They're probably already making it right now.
I watched a video that had it said the game that made Johnny Manziel famous, and it was his performance against Alabama, and he just shredded Alabama like nobody had ever done in the Saban-Bama era. And I thought to myself, all those guys that he shredded, that defense, they're all in the NFL, and he's not. It is pretty sad. But I want to get your take on another topic that I definitely wanted to ask you about it. In the wake of this news story, there was a huge transition that people haven't really talked about in the organization at length quite yet. It's still pretty fresh in everyone's mind. As far as Russ Brandon getting, resigning, I think he was kind of shoved out the door and told, hey, man, you're either fired or quit, make yourself look better by quitting, whatever. He's not a part of the Bills or the Sabres. What is, as a female sports writer, podcast co-host, whatever you want, you'd like to add, in your experience in those positions, what were your first thoughts when you heard about Russ Brandon and why potentially he was forced to quote unquote resign?
So first and foremost, this is my understanding of what went down is that there was an internal investigation when he was employed that he was having inappropriate relationships with multiple women and some personal misconduct. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, that's what I've heard, and I've heard names thrown out there, but the last thing I want to do is throw out a name and then end up getting like sued or something like that.
Right.
So,
and I'm not gonna I haven't heard any names, but I've kind of scoured Twitter actually, and Twitter can also be a cesspool. You got to be careful. A lot of fake news going around. It's true though.
It's true.
Some people were like, "Oh, you work at Pagula Sports and Entertainment. Were you the one that got involved with Russ?"
Right.
And
that's not fair,
completely out of line. And he's gonna, lawyer. He's probably has already lawyered up, and it'll just be interesting to see if there are any leaks or stories, because I haven't really seen much else. It's just been this vague.
Right.
And obviously this is such a hot button issue with the whole Me Too movement,
right?
Or hashtag Me Too movement, right. And all these, the Harvey Weinsteins of the world, and Bill Cosby just going to jail.
Oh.
Not to bring pop culture into it.
No, you're right.
Sports is part of pop culture, so
right.
It's obviously there's a sensitivity to all of that. So, but on a positive note, it's great that Kim Pagula is stepping in.
Right. That's the direction I was hoping you would go with this. Yes, so that's good.
Yes, I'm trying to put a positive spin.
Right.
A lot of people didn't like Russ Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
From what I got, I was honestly indifferent, but after finding out all this stuff, I change my opinion on him.
Right.
But on a more positive note, I'm glad Kim is stepping in. I read somewhere that I guess she's the first female president
of an NFL team. Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not, but somebody had thrown that out, and I thought that was really cool.
Right. There's been female owners, but there's never been like a female president of football operations, which is like more validated, I guess, for some reason. I don't know.
And it's she's gonna handle like the marketing and whatnot from all of that. So I'm like really thrilled. I love Kim. There's this really good article. I want to say the Buffalo News wrote it.
Right, about her life.
It's
yeah,
really
it was amazing.
Inspiring, and it's just a fabulous story. I recommend people read it.
Mm-hmm.
Where she came from and like her story. So I'm really excited for her to be on board. I think we just need a fresh perspective.
Right.
For that side of things.
Well, it's like too so many fans of other teams, and I have another show that I join where there's other writers on it from all around the country, and one of my good friends asked me, he's like, well, why did they put Kim Pegula in that position? What did she do to earn it? And I'm like, well, first off, she's Terry Pegula's wife, and who could he trust more in that position than her? You know what I mean? So it's like that alone to me is an easy sell. Like, they've been married for X amount of years. The story that you're referring to, she was a waitress at a diner, and he met her and was like wowed by her, how smart she was and how talented she was, and he saw a lot of potential in her. And it's actually, not to sound, corny, but it was a pretty decent love story, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
They're very, very successful, they're NFL and NHL owners. They're very rare company for people to own not just one sports franchise, but two major sports franchises. And one he bought, when he bought the Sabres, he overpaid for the Sabres at the time. It was like $200 million or something like that. I remember when that went down. And then when he bought the Bills, he massively overpaid, like 500, 400, maybe even 600 million more than what they were worth. So, at this point, I don't care what Terry Pegula does. Obviously, I wouldn't, I would want him to run the team the right way and everything. But if he trusts his wife in that position, who am I to say you should? Right.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah.
And honestly, the Pegulas are our savior because if they hadn't purchased the Bills, there was a possibility of moving the franchise.
Right, and
so there was all that. So we have so much to be thankful for them.
Right, and people talk about there was one article you mentioned, a great article in the Buffalo News. I'll mention one that was one of the worst articles I've probably ever read. I can't remember who wrote it, and that's probably for the better. But he wrote about how the community should find more things to do outside of rooting for the Bills. Something along those lines. And I was like, well, there's not really a whole lot to do around here. I like where I live. Like, I've lived here my entire life, but there are times where I wonder to myself, man, I'd like to move to like Nashville or Orlando or, San Diego or other cities that have a lot of jobs, and they're not in the middle of somewhat of an economy recession that's lasted longer here than I think in other cities. It really rubbed me the wrong way because, like, me personally, the Bills are like what gets me through life. Honestly, like, it sounds it sounds so weird, but it is like it's a form of entertainment.
Yeah, I try to explain Buffalo to other sports fans, and I'm like, you have to understand that city eats, sleeps, and breathes football. That is a football town,
right? And I knew when I did that poll that was going to happen.
Boston, and then I try to argue with them that Boston is not a football town.
No,
it's it's a baseball town,
right?
With the Red Sox, or maybe a hockey town.
I'd say it's more baseball, hockey, or basketball. I just don't see it as a football. I don't see it as a football town.
Yeah. But I mean, some people get offended, but I'm not trying to be like, trying to compare fan bases by any means. I'm just saying, like, the town itself, like, it revolves around football.
Right.
It's an experience.
And back to, like, the Russ Brandon thing, too, just for a sec. One of the things that Russ Brandon did that actually helped keep the team here, and whether he did it purposely or not, it kind of inadvertently happened when they did that Toronto deal where they had the games in Toronto and there were only 30,000 people in the seats. It made people realize, well, Toronto really doesn't understand, or maybe they don't want NFL football, and maybe the Buffalo Bills do have a place to stay. Maybe they are here to stay. And he was a very integral part in getting Terry Pegula to get the team. And I'm appreciative for that and his marketing sense. The training camp at St. John Fisher has been awesome the last few years that they've had it there. So in like a business sense, he was great. But I've heard all sorts of stories about how when he was kept on, when Terry bought the team, he just became this egomaniac that essentially he was like a social pariah that they needed to get him out. I mean, not even just among inappropriate relationships with colleagues, but just not professional, to say the least, amongst like Brandon Beane and Terry and it's all rumors right now, and the NFL did their own investigation of it, which I found to be really interesting. But we're definitely going to hear more about it. That's for sure.
I would say stay tuned on that. I'm really interested to hear more and, what comes to light out of all of it.
Yeah. So as far as, being a native of Massachusetts, you said you don't.
I'm actually, I'm actually not from Massachusetts. I was born in Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
So,
my bad on that.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, it's New England. It's a region.
Right.
But yeah, so I'm sorry, where were you going with it?
Where I was going with it was you mentioned that you don't really get to go to many Bills games, but how many Boston Red Sox games do you get to go to per season?
Because I live really close I live outside the city. I live in the city of Quincy. I try to go 3 to 4 times a year. I also went a lot in college. I had those opportunities because I lived in the Fenway neighborhood.
So lucky.
Yeah, it was a really nice college experience.
Right.
So I try to go, and I mean, tickets can be so cheap, especially in the bleachers, or, you can always get standing room only or grandstands. Like I just bought a ticket for like $20 in the grandstand for last week's game against the Royals. So yeah, they're great to attend and just experience.
Right. I went last game I went to, and this makes me feel even more sad than my Bills situation. The last game I went to was in 2013. The year that they went, it was actually the game I went to. 2 games I went to were against Tampa Bay, and they won the AL East in those 2 games, which is really awesome. And the city is just, I love it there. It's really, it's awesome. It has like an old look to it, but new at the same time. It's great. Like I was actually blown away. I liked it better than what I thought I would.
It's a walking city. There's a lot to do and see. It's a really, I love living here. It's a really good town.
I know I would, and as far as you said 4 games a year. Now try to go to 4 games a year. What are your thoughts so far? I mean, we're in May. I mean, it's still really early in the season, but what are your thoughts so far on the Red Sox and the state of the AL East? And Those GDY, goddamn Yankees.
Yes. Okay. So, well, let's start with with the hot start and everything. I try to have somewhat low expectations because I don't want to be disappointed too early. So I was a little pessimistic going into April. So I was just blown away when we had that hot start, and we're still going strong. Mookie Betts is having a phenomenal, he's
tearing it up.
I would say he's going to be MVP, but I don't want to jinx it.
I think he will. There's no such thing as jinxes.
I just didn't want to jinx it, but I could be biased because I love Mookie, and I think he's really dynamic. And one other thing, and I've been working on a piece, once the series is over with the whole Yankees, and the rivalry is back.
It is. It is.
And I've talked to other people about it, so it's not just me. Like, at first I thought it was just me saying that, and then I realized, oh, wait, no, it's, really back, because you had the whole Joe Kelly fight and against Tyler Austin, and, the suspension and all that. So it's coming back to the glory days. I'm really excited.
And it's fun for me because I remember, the 2002, 2003, 2004, that era, that window of years. And they would literally, whether it was the Red Sox or the Yankees, they would literally make moves to combat one another. And you see that now with the Yankees getting Stanton, and with Boston a couple years ago getting Chris Sale, and it's fun. It's really fun, and there's a lot of young talent on both teams.
And it's really weird because it's Boone and Cora.
Right.
It's like the ultimate Throwback Thursday, in my opinion, because it's two managers that are former players of these franchises. So I just found that really funny, and I was high up on that. I know some people might have been a little bit pessimistic about Alex Cora coming in, but I was really high up on him.
Me too. Yeah, I
don't know about you, but
I was very excited. Yeah, I was excited because I knew that John Farrell was about as stale as a old cracker, and it just wasn't gonna work anymore.
Blah blah blah.
Very vanilla. Yeah, it just wasn't working, and
then he had that weird relationship with, I forgot what there was a scandal.
Oh wow!
I don't know if you heard about this, but this was Boston local media is just over the top. But there was a relationship, I think, with some reporter.
Oh jeez.
So yeah.
Right. Oh,
that was crazy. So I don't think that looked favorable for him.
Well, when they hired Alex Cora, like you were saying, you were really excited about it. I was excited about it because of the fact that he can communicate with, Dominican players very well, and that's huge for their team. He was the manager, I believe, of Puerto Rico in the World Baseball Classic a couple years ago. So when I heard that, I was like, hey, bring him on. That's pretty awesome. And he was a decent player here too. I always say here, even though I don't live there, but I mean here, like with the Red Sox. He was a pretty decent player, and I think he's got the right. I'd take him over Aaron Boone if that was a choice. I would take him over Aaron Boone as a manager. So, but as far as like Mookie goes, and you mentioned the Joe Kelly injury, I gotta shift gears as far as like the New York Yankees. What is it about them that might scare you as a Red Sox fan, or what is it about them that you don't like, this year, or what is it about them that has you kind of thinking like, oh wow, this might actually be a challenge?
Giancarlo Stanton. just recently. I mean, we lost. I don't know if you followed yesterday's game, but we lost.
Yeah, they lost. Yeah.
So
moments after I said that they were going to kick the Yankees' ass, and I
exactly. And my understanding is Giancarlo was off to kind of a sluggish start, and now all of a sudden, once he plays us, he's eaten up by like feeding off of it.
Right. He's motivated now, which is never a good thing.
Yeah, I feel like this is a different Yankees team that we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there was that weird, because when did Jeter retire?
Jeter, I think, retired, I think it was 2014, if I'm not mistaken.
It feels like yesterday, to be honest.
Right, yeah.
Time just flies.
Right.
But I just feel like there was that just odd transition period where we didn't, like, the team was going through, like, an identity crisis. And
right.
But I think we're back on track with the whole rivalry. It's starting up again, which is great.
Right.
You know, it's always good, and people are feeding off of it.
Now, like, there's so many Yankees fans in Buffalo and everything. And they say to me all the time, like, "Oh, are you nervous?" And I asked you that same question. I'm not nervous because I know that, like you said, the rivalry's back. I'm going to get to watch entertaining baseball, which the rivalry was a little one-sided in our favor for a little while, I would say.
Yeah.
So
I would say that.
If anything, I say to the Yankees fans, it's about time they caught up.
Yeah.
At least in this generation.
Honestly, I think they're just a little butthurt about, losing to us.
In 2004.
And now they want to go back to the glory days.
I think the rotation still sucks. I'm one of those few people that I'm like, I think that's the chink in their armor. I think Severino's okay. Tanaka inconsistent, and everybody else is like, I'm not really over the moon about any of them. And I'm not saying it from a bias standpoint, but I'm like a fantasy baseball mega nerd, and I don't have any Yankees on my team that are pitchers, and that's why. So, I'm excited. I think if you were to give a prediction on how this season could pan out, maybe like we'll go there. We'll go World Series prediction. Do you think the Red Sox will be in the World Series this year? It's a tough question because it's early, but
I mean, we now have JD Martinez,
and he's been. You want to talk about somebody that's actually
he's on a hitting streak, and
right?
I think they're playing right now because I keep getting like buzz updates and stuff like that.
Yeah, I haven't watched it.
I don't know what the score is actually, but and I'll probably listen to it on the car ride home. But he has like a 10-game hitting streak. He's
been fantastic. He's been like worth every penny that they paid him.
I was so nervous because I didn't want him to be a bust. Like I wanted him to succeed because of
like Pablo and Carl Crawford.
I didn't want it to be a bust. So I'm really excited to see what he can bring to the table. And I know it's early, but I think it's going to be maybe a little bit of a dogfight for first place against the Yankees.
Right, and the thing that sucks is whoever loses the division, whoever finishes in second, has to play a one-game playoff, which as a fan, of the MLB, it's fun, but I don't want to see the Red Sox in a one-game playoff.
Yeah, no, you're going to have a series. I know.
It's just stupid. I don't know.
Yeah, and then, I would love to see the Red Sox in the World Series.
But your gut is telling you your gut is telling you no.
I feel like I need to give them another year.
Another year? All right, that's fair. That's fair.
I'm hoping I'm wrong.
I hope you're wrong too.
Laugh about this. We can go back to this day and laugh about it because, I hope they make it, but I think they need another year.
I think Houston is still really good. I think the Yankees are obviously really good, and I think the Indians are still really good. Like those three teams, along with the Red Sox, are going to be battling it out. As far as you joining me on the show. I really appreciate having you on. You were really amped up for it, and I was like, that's pretty awesome that she's this pumped up about it. It pumped me up seeing how pumped up you were about it. So I'll definitely, and I tell every person that's on the show with me, it won't be the last time. You'll definitely be on again.
Especially since I'm a trailblazer.
Right, you're a trailblazer.
You heard it first.
Right.
I'm the first guest.
Right, you're.
I don't know how long you've been doing this, but
I've been doing this for 3 years, but I haven't really had guests. I've only had guests on it for like maybe on and off the last 5 months.
Okay.
And it's I usually I would just hop on, talk about a topic, give my take on it, but now it's like I kind of want to broaden my broaden my horizons a little bit, and have more people on it, and allow yourself to promote yourself and to get some exposure that you deserve and everything. So for the people that are watching and everything like that, feel free to let them in on what your Twitter is and all that stuff.
So my Twitter is @SteffiTweets. It's a very original Twitter.
That is original.
So it's STPHIE tweets. You know how to spell tweets. I'm not gonna go into that.
Some people might not.
I have a presence elsewhere. You can find me on Facebook, just Stephanie Wilson. Mm-hmm. Hopefully you can find me. I'm located in like the Boston area, so you might have to do some weeding out. But I'm also on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Steffi_Grams. And then I'm on Snapchat. So if you're looking, I should do more with, I'm trying to figure out Snapchat in terms of promoting myself, I
put my Snapchat out there on a live show. It was the worst mistake I've ever made.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm only saying that like as a friend, like I don't want you to go down that rabbit hole. So they were like, "Hey Ryan, what's your Snapchat?" And I'm like, "I'll give you my Snapchat." And then when I did, I was like, "Oh no!" Like 20 minutes later, it was just bad. So don't do that. But as far as you're always tweeting. Her Twitter is at Steffi Tweets. You're always posting, like memes and stuff like that. You're always giving your take on stuff. I really appreciate you joining me on the show, and I'm glad we were able to iron out a day and a time to get you on.
Yeah. So anytime, just give me a holler. I'll bring my hot takes.
All right, you got it. All right. Final prediction. Okay. We got to make a final prediction though.
Oh my God.
One more prediction. And I said this to the last guest that I had on. If you were to look in your crystal ball, give me the Buffalo Bills wins and loss record in 2018.
Oh my God. I'm gonna go high.
You're gonna go high? All right. Throw it out there.
Oh gosh, this is like because I'm so hopeful, and then I get let down. It's terrible. But you know what? After the whole drought ending thing, I'm like so optimistic. I'm back on that high again. It's just like taking drugs. I swear. I would say 10-6, but I know that's
10-6. That's fair. I could see it.
Pipe dream.
You could justify it with their added defense. They got Trent Murphy. They've added some pieces.
I mean, I think so I tweeted out something to get a feel for however. So I said I allege that we have the best defense in the AFC East.
I saw that. I did see that.
I am sticking by that because I mean, I don't think the Patriots defense.
Their defense was bad.
Is good. This is going to be good this year either.
Right.
I think Brady keeps bailing them out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a different topic, but we could be here all day. I think we have a lot of weapons, a lot of defensive weapons.
Right.
And I know we didn't really touch base, but like I'm really high up on the Tremaine Edmonds pick.
Right.
And we got some cornerbacks. You know, we got some
Star Latulier, and I mean they've made some really good moves.
They've made some really good moves.
Right.
So I think our defense is going to be phenomenal. I really do. And I think I know there was some controversy with the whole Trey White not getting Defensive Rookie of the Year. I thought he should have, but that's a separate story. But I really am high up on him too.
Yeah, I'm definitely. That's probably going to be my. I have the red McCoy jersey. I have the blue Josh Allen jersey on the way.
Yeah.
And the trifecta is going to be a white Trey White jersey. I'm going to make that happen.
Yes, you should.
Well, it was really great having you on, and thanks for joining me for sure. We'll do this again.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
Stephanie Wilson, everybody. Trailblazer. The Trailblazer. First female on the Thomas Take Sports podcast, and I'd be the first to admit she knows her stuff. She's very, very passionate about sports, and I think that that's awesome. I'm all for it as far as women in the industry of sports, you know, whether it's the top of the food chain, you know, like Michelle Beadle and Susie Colbert and Wendy Nix, and you know, there's so many that are very, very talented, and Stephanie Wilson definitely is. I really enjoyed having her on the show. I enjoyed the fact that she was just so pumped up to be on. She was really excited about it. She wanted to talk about all of these sports topics and really wears the Buffalo Bills red, white, and blue proud, and the Boston Red Sox blue and red as well. So I definitely am jealous of the fact that she lives in Massachusetts, right near Fenway. She gets to go to 4 Red Sox games. She said tries to go to 4 Red Sox games a year, so she at least goes to 1. And I'm stuck here in Buffalo, New York. Maybe one day I'll move over there, I should say, and make more appearances at Red Sox games. That would be fantastic. She thought the Red Sox might need another year as far as the World Series trip. Could happen next year, maybe not so this year. I think that they could make it this year. I really do. I said that to start the season, and we'll see. Hopefully I'm right in that instance. Hopefully she's wrong. Or maybe both of us will be right. They go back-to-back, make the World Series, and win both of them. But, hey, everybody, that was the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. I'm Ryan Thomas. I was just joined by Stephanie Wilson of thegruelingtruth.net. Very, very happy with the show. Thank you, Stephanie, for joining me. Take care, everybody. Stay tuned next Wednesday. More guests coming right up.